Hey everybody, and welcome to the patch 12.23 patch notes. Throughout this video, we're going to be going over the patch notes and explaining exactly what is inside them, because a lot of you guys don't understand the patch notes, and I'm here to help. As always, you can put me on your second monitor, or you can watch me on the couch, or anything like that. You just need to listen to my great, amazing voice. Ironically, I'm not going to be going over the ARAM updates, because I don't play ARAM, and I would have no perspective to give you on any of these changes. But I can tell you that Heartsteel is being nerfed on ARAM from 10% of damage delta's maximum health to 5%. That is because on ARAM you can proc it way more often, making it quite overpowered. From what I've heard, this is probably still not going to be enough to actually bring this item into balance, but hey, at least it's a change. On ARAM, Heartsteel is very overpowered, and it is being nerfed, which is nice. Moss Stomper, so that's the green Pokemon. For those of you who don't jungle now has Pokemon. The green jungle Pokemon gave you tenacity for 3 seconds of combat when combat opened. That's being changed to 1.5 seconds. So in the opening stage of combat, they will have tenacity. They will not have tenacity for, basically the entire fight. In addition, they're changing its tenacity type. For those of you who don't understand tenacity type, trust me, it's complicated. Once again, I'm going to do the joke because it is true, and it is kind of dumb how Riot has done this. There are 5 different types of tenacity. Tenacity type A, B, C, D, and E. You don't need to know any of this. Basically, it's being changed so it's no longer additive with items. So Merc Treads plus Moss Stomper no longer gives you 60% tenacity, it now gives you 51% tenacity. In total, Moss Stomper is then receiving 2 nerfs. This is a nerf if you build it with Merc Treads, this is a nerf, period. Everybody got that? Okay. Ravenous Hydra, very overpowered item. It has been very overpowered since they buffed it a lot. So what are they doing? They're nerfing the splash damage on the item. Instead of 60% for melee, 30% from range, it will be 50% for melee, 25% for range. So the amount of splash damage it gets is nerfed, and there is no more stacking Omnivamp on the item. So instead of 10% Omnivamp when you build it up to 14%, it's now 10%, no stacking at all. Will this be enough to nerf Ravenous Hydra? In my opinion, still probably no, but we'll see. The issue is getting 85 damage on an item. This isn't season like 5 or 6 or 7 where items were just crazy stat sticks that just give insane stats. This is season 13. And in season 13, you can do things like go Ravenous Hydra into Jack's Show. And with 85 damage on one item, you'll still do a good bit of damage. It also makes sure that lethality players can basically get a giga damage item to one-shot people. This is pretty much an overpowered item, but it is good that it's being nerfed. I do like that it's being nerfed. This probably brings it down from like broken, everyone builds it tier to, yeah, most people will build it tier. Sunfire Aegis was just as underpowered as I kept joking it was going to be. So once again, I'm going to put this in the Hashinshin is right because Hashinshin is always right category. Sunfire was massively underpowered. Unfortunately, a lot of tanks needed to build Sunfire because they needed wave clear and they needed jungle damage, or they needed objective damage, or they just needed damage at all. The issue is a lot of tanks were skipping Sunfire and just going Thornmail and then kind of just using Thornmail for their damage and then not having any wave clear, and it kind of sucked for a lot of champions. So Sunfire is going down by 100 gold on the combined cost, which of course brings down the total cost by 100 gold, and the health is going up by 100. So what does that mean? As of right now, let's see if the wiki is actually updated. The wiki is updated. It was a mere 76%, I think, gold efficient. It's now 86% gold efficient for its tank stats, which means that Sunfire is probably worth its stats right now. Before its buff, you could literally just build like a chain vest and a giant's belt, and you pretty much had a Sunfire Aegis anyway. Now with 100 more health and the actual, aura on it, it means that upgrading from a Bambi Syndra to a Sunfire Aegis might actually be a good idea ever. Basically, Sunfire Aegis needed to be buffed. It was really underpowered. Amumu is getting some changes here. His health growth is going up by 11, so he'll actually have real health and no longer like super squishy health for some reason. The mana cost and bandage toss is going up, presumably to try to make his support role a bit weaker. So that's what they're doing. So like they're buffing all Amumu, but they're trying to like offset support Amumu because the support Amumu is really, really good right now. Will nerfing the mana cost and bandage toss by 10 make support Amumu not overpowered with these buffs? Probably not, probably not. We're probably going to see a very overpowered support Amumu still. His Despair is being buffed into the later ranks. Kitty is sneezing with her little kitty allergies. So Despair at rank 1 does the same damage, but rank 5 Despair will go from 1.6% health damage to 2% health damage per second. That's like 20% more health damage, which, you know, that's a good buff for Despair. It's actually like 25% more health damage. At either rate, it does mean that late game Amumu with his Despair will be able to hurt high health characters and old characters better. Tahm is also receiving a buff of 15 flat damage. That's rank 1 and rank 5 all get buffed by 15. So Amumu will do, between these changes, he'll do a bit more damage early game, then he'll also do a bit more damage late game, and he'll also be tankier, and he'll... Kitty, are you okay? And then he'll also have a bit of a nerf on his mana cost and Q though. So all over, Amumu more damaging and tankier because he was pretty useless. Cho'Gath is getting buffed as well. He's getting more mana restore on his passive, so he can lane a bit better, because right now he runs out of mana, and then he just sort of is a useless piece of shit and dies, which, you know, it's not great. Not great to be useless as a top laner. His Feral Scream is also getting buffed from 5 damage at rank 1 to 25 damage at rank 5. So early in the game, a tiny bit more damage. If he maxes Feral Scream, also a tiny bit more damage. Nothing really too big. Will this be enough to make him viable? No, not even close. He's extremely underpowered right now. Kitty. Mana restore on enemy kills. So he gets more mana, he does a tiny shred more damage, and until late game his ult cooldown is going down. So instead of 80 seconds flat, it's going from 80 to 60. This might help him get his ult back if he uses it in a skirmish, or if he uses it like on a dragon or a baron to get a stack. All over, I don't think that this is really going to be enough for Cho'Gath. I think his early game is still going to be absolute garbage. I think that he'll definitely have more mana, so he can like stay further away and try to last hit more often, but he still can't do anything if people just run on top of him, which means that it's very difficult for him to lane until he gets some items and some health and can actually survive through like 2 trades, because right now you run up, use all your abilities, he goes to half health. You run up, use all your abilities, and he dies, and he can't really do anything about that. So here is the big Dr. Mundo rework. So what they're doing for Dr. Mundo, overall, I'm going to go over overall, and then you can skip past this part if you want. Overall, he's getting a much stronger late game, and he's getting a W that heals way more. If he activates his W, he'll be able to turn basically all the damage you deal to him into gray health early in the fight. Or I should say early in the ability. What am I even describing? I'll just say it out loud. He gets 80 to 95% of damage as gray health in the first 0.75 seconds of activating his W. Now remember, his W heals him that great health when he activates it and hits a champion. So if you're playing Aatrox and you hit him with your Q3 into your passive hit, even at level 1, he would store 80% of that damage as gray health. So he activates his W, you whack him with both, he activates his W again, and he heals 80% of the damage that you just burst onto him. So just watch out for that. That's basically the gist. Stronger late game, weaker early game, and a W that's more reactive. Now what are these specific changes happening here now that I've probably confused everybody in a very terrible way? His base magic resist, that's his magic resist at level 1, is going down. However, his magic resist growth is going up. That means he gets 3 less magic resist at level 1, but as he continues to level throughout the game, he'll have slightly more magic resist than he does now. It should probably equal out at like level 14-ish, depending on how they do the thing. And then from 14 on, he'll have a little bit more magic resist than he did in the past. About, not like a huge amount, but like 2.5 more. It's not huge, but they're trying to make him. I'm assuming what they did is they found that he's one of these tanks that started going mid lane if he's viable. So they wanted him to not be able to like face tank all the mages with his healing in mid lane. His base attack speed is going down. and his attack damage growth is also going down. But we'll go into why this is happening later. Now, when he procs his canister, that's when he, gets CC'd, and then instead he doesn't get CC'd. Instead of losing 7% of current health, he's only losing 3%. But in return, the heal is going from 8% down to 4%. Why are they doing that? Because it was very frequent for champions like Aatrox to knock off his canister, then go step on it, and then they would just deal bonus damage. This would turn his passive basically into a detriment, into a nerf against many champions. In late games, he could get chain healings off it if he got lucky procs, but in the early game, against any competent opponent, most often it just turned into him taking more damage. So taking damage from his passive, then from his Q, then from his W, it just meant that he basically couldn't fight back because he would just kill himself for his opponent. Now, his max health regen is going down in the early game substantially, from 0.8% healing to 0.4% healing. But the healing per level is going so that he gets, instead of 1.6% health healing per 5 seconds at level 18, to 2.5% health healing at level 18. That means that that's going up by nearly 50%. Sorry, over 50%, in fact. So late game Mundo will heal way more in his passive. He'll still not heal enough, but they're trying to buff his late game off this. So his early game has received a big nerf here, a nerf here, a big nerf on his attack speed, his attack damage goes. So everything in the early game is nerf. His Q health cost has also gone up from 50 to 60, so there's another early game nerf. Now let's go over his Heart Zapper. It's going from 5% of current health to 8% of current health. So he's getting a nerf on his Q health, his W health, but in return, Gray health healed after not taking damage. I'm going to assume what they mean by this is that if Mundo doesn't hit anyone with his W, it goes from healing 0% of the Gray health to healing 50% of the Gray health. I'm assuming. I can't say for sure because they actually worded this pretty badly. I think that's what they mean, because if the ability doesn't hit anyone right now after not taking damage, if no one takes damage, it doesn't heal anything. So I assume that's what they're talking about, going from 0% to 50% of the Gray health is healing. If he hits a champion, he'll heal the entirety of the Gray health. So the big change here, the damage stored as Gray health is going from 80 to 95% in the first 0.75 seconds, then 25% afterwards. Meaning, again, if you block if you turn it on right as Garen hits you with his Q into his Judgment, you can then block 80% of that damage. Then you'll only block 25% of the damage afterward, but it only blocked 25% at rank 1 anyway, and you always maxed it last. And then you heal up, so you basically ignore his Q damage, ignore his opening Judgment damage, and then you just heal it back. That also means if, for example, a Darius pulls you into a Q, W, or something like that, that you can, activate your W and Gray hold through that. That means, with the Aatrox example, Aatrox hits you with the Q3 crit into the passive hit. All these combos. If Riven combos into you, you start your Heart Zapper. So basically, they're giving Mundo more ability to actually play A, aggressively by blocking damage and actually being smart, and then B, as I just said, smarter. So a good Mundo will know when to activate Heart Zapper to basically block all the damage he just took. He could activate it right when, say, a Syndra is stunning him. So then he Gray healths the entire stun damage, immunes through the stun with his passive, and then runs up to her and heals it off, or, stuff like that. Then the duration is going down from 4 to 3. Most people would activate it early, though, to ensure that A, the damage actually hits someone, and B, they actually do get the healing. So, yeah. They are stopping it from, like, someone flashes away from you and now you don't heal because you don't deal damage. At least you'll get 50% of the healing in that situation. So E, Blunt Force Trauma, is going from 15 to 35 damage and then an additional 25 to 45. That all is being removed. It no longer gives flat damage at all. Instead, it now gives damage on 2.5 to 4.5% max health. The health cost is also going up from 10 to 50 to 20 to 60. So it will cost more health to use, but the cooldown is also going up at level 1. So instead of 8 seconds at level 1, it's going to 9. The level 5 is still 6. So this ability will, off a brief, let's see here, what would it take to equal that out? So it would be about 600 HP is equal. I don't believe Mundo has less than 600 HP. I don't believe so. No, he's got 653 HP at level 1. So the rank 1 of his W will deal more damage at max HP, but deal less damage when you start going down in HP. But every rank in your E after that, every point in your E should start dealing way more damage. So Mundo's auto attack damage is going to be much higher later in the game, a bit above the same, a bit lower in the early game. The cooldown's going up though, and the health cost is going up. The bonus damage to monsters is also going down, presumably so that late game Mundo didn't just like do 900 damage to Baron. Then his R is getting the maximum health gained, or say missing health gained as maximum health is going from 8 to 15 to 15 to 25. So if Mundo uses his ult at low HP, that amount of HP that he suddenly boosts himself up is going way, way, way up. So he will definitely be a bit scarier of a champion. They're also adding something to kind of, again, push the late game Mundo Giga Fantasy. At rank 3, Mundo's R healing effects are increased by an additional 5% per nearby enemy champion. So if I look at this, this means that if Mundo is next to Mundo's actually, they're not as clear on this as I thought they were being. Healing effects are increased by additional 5% per nearby enemy champion. Now, what does that mean? Shoot, now I'm like reading this in my head again a second time. So, does this mean the entire effect is increased by 25%? So, like, you're going from 60% healing to 85% healing? Or is it being multiplied by 25%? Increased by an additional. Well, why do they say increased by an additional? At rank 3, Mundo's R healing effects. They say effects, so that they're talking about the healing and the health increase. Because S, that means plural, that means 2. So they're talking about the fact that he gains missing health as maximum health, and then he does percent health healing. So both of those are increased by an additional 5% per nearby enemy champion. But they say an additional 5%. They don't say increased by 5%. They say increased by an additional 5%. Does that mean potentially Mundo can get 50%? If he's between 5 people, can Mundo get 50% of his missing health as max health? And then heal for like 80% health? I don't know. I'm going to have to see. Someone has to actually figure out what they mean by this, because the way I'm reading it seems very, very strong, but only at rank 3. So Mundo basically has to power spike at level 16, which I'm not actually a big fan of, to be honest, because the fact that he needs to level up, then get to level 16, and then he can start playing the game, I don't really like that. Like, it kind of feels lame that he can hit this spike at level 16 and then become this like giga champion, but at level 14 and 15, he's weak. This seems to push him into being a very, very low-ranking niche pick, and not really like a high-ranking champion. The last change is his R no longer gives bonus AD. So if you did remember, his R used to give him, bonus damage based on his health. That damage has been swapped to his E, but it has been reduced. Overall, I want to say that this does look like a much weaker champion. I do think they'll probably hotfix buff him. Probably, if I had to guesstimate, in my guesstimation, I think they'll probably end up hotfixing him, because this does look really weak. I like the idea of the rework. I like what they're doing as a concept, but it does seem to be very underpowered. Probably because Mundo has always been overpowered at the low ranks. Probably. So they're. But the thing is, they're doing a thing where they're giga buffing his late game, when the late game affects the low ranks more. So they're kind of saying like, oh man, Mundo is so overpowered at the low ranks, let's make him even more overpowered at the low ranks. And then in return, they're kind of like nerfing the crap out of him, because at the low ranks he'll be dominant. I don't really like it, truth be told. Okay, so Kassadin is being buffed, which I very much disagree with. I'm actually going to say my piece on this one, but I'll probably go further into it in a video. Kassadin is perfectly balanced at the high ranks, and he's a little bit hard to play for the low ranking people. What does this mean? By buffing him, he will now 100%, I guarantee he will be nerfed in the future really hard for the high ranks. When the rank season opens up, when competitive tournaments and things like that open up, I guarantee Kassadin will be nerfed harder than he is being buffed now. He will be nerfed harder, which is a bad thing. So what are they doing? His base health regeneration is going up from 8.5 to 9.5. His health growth is going up from 104 to 108. So these two buffs alone, although not substantial, are pretty good, and he does not need to be buffed at all, in my opinion. I think the low-ranking people just need to get better, and he's perfectly balanced as is right now. Between the Sunfire buff and these buffs, I'm going to go over this in probably a different video, but he'll be nerfed, I promise you. But let's go over the rest of the changes. Auto attack reset. E will now partially reset auto attacks in Kassadin's base form and will be a full auto attack reset while in his all out. So a lot of people were playing Kassadin after playing Aatrox and using both their E's, which kind of move a very similar distance. It was very frustrating when Kassadin's E did not reset his auto attack, which I think was a good thing, by the way, because that helped, you know, tone down his early game a bit. I know his early game is a bit weak, but he does start power spiking really hard at level 6 and then really hard with his Jack Show. So I don't think he needed more early game damage. Adjusted E so that if Kassadin is very close to dashing through a wall, it will not go through the wall. So every ability has like a threshold where, let's say the ability dashes 500, but if the wall distance is 501, then it won't let you go through the wall, right? But every ability has like a buffer of like 50 to 100, some even have a buffer of 200, like Aatrox's E, where they'll let you go through the wall anyway, just so it's not a feels bad man. So Kassadin's E, I think it dashes in his ult form by like 500, maybe? If I had to guess, probably about 500. So what they're probably doing is that it can dash through walls of 550 now, if I had to guess. So no longer should you try to E through a wall and the game's like, no, you are one slight mini pixel off. We can't let you go through that. Okay, Kassadin is getting a slight rework, nothing major. The AP ratio on his Q shield is going down, but the base shield strength is going up. So he's even more of a counter pick. Yay. Shield is granted when the Q projectile leaves Kassadin's hand is being changed to shield is granted when Q is cast. So the second you press Q, you will get the shield. It will no longer have to play out a slight animation before you get the shield. Force Pulse is also seeing a large rework. It no longer has stacks and you can just cast it whenever you want. But the cooldown is going from 5 to 21 to 13. The difference here is ally and enemy spellcasts now reduce its cooldown by 1. So it now has a very, very long cooldown, but its cooldown is reduced whenever someone casts a spell. What does that do? It gives him less frustrating wave clear, and it gives him, like, you'll sit there and just, like, be spamming E less, because, like, optimal Kassadin play is often just doing this. Like, the second anyone casts a couple of abilities, you cast your E, so you're just sitting there doing this all the time. You'll be able to read it a bit better now to see, like, okay, is it actually coming back or not? That's just my take. That's probably not why they actually did it, but that's just one thing that frustrated me when I used to play Kassadin. So Blue Kayn is getting his damage buffed. The passive magic damage is going from 8 to 30 to 13 to 40. So Blue Kayn is seeing a pretty large damage increase. Now remember that multiplies all your physical damage into magical damage. So yeah, Blue Kayn will definitely deal a lot more damage here. And the AD ratio on his E heal is going up from 35% of AD in healing to 45% of AD as healing. So Kayn is getting a bit buffed. Basically, Blue Kayn could no longer one-shot at everyone because they did the durability rework, so he could no longer one-shot everyone. This seems to have upset Riot, who wants him to one-shot everyone, even though they did a rework, not enabling him to one-shot everyone. So Riot's being a bit stupid again, but you know, they've been slowly undoing the durability update anyway. You know, what are you gonna do? Okay, so Laya has gotten a large buff. Apparently, the red buff, which I didn't even think of, Red buff slows more on her, Conqueror stacks faster on her, and Demonic Embrace does more damage. Probably the biggest thing here was the red buff slow. Red buff slow went from a minor slow because she was a ranged champion to a large slow because she was a melee champion. This buffed her pretty hard. The Conqueror's buff and the Demonic Embrace buff, those are both buffs and they did good. But in my opinion, this red buff thing, which I had not even considered, it had not even crossed my mind, that one was very, very much a large buff. So what they're doing is they're buffing the early game on her Q slightly and nerfing the late game on her Q a good chunk. So the late game is going down from, 190 damage to 160 damage. So she is losing 30 damage on her Q late game, but only gaining 10 damage on her Q early game. Early game, slightly more damage. Late game, or I should say, early game, level 9, a good bit less damage. So is going to definitely be nerfed. Malphite is also getting buffed. He's getting a... actually they pulled half the buffs they were going to do. That's why I always say to read the patch notes with me, fellas. The Kassadin buffs and now the Malphite changes weren't in the original preview. So Malphite is getting his E damage buffed rather substantially. 10 damage at rank 1, 30 damage at rank 5. So his base damage is going up on ground slam a good bit. And the armor ratio is also going up from 30% armor ratio to 40% of armor ratio. So yeah, the mana cost is also going down from 50 to 70 to 50 flat. So I think what they're doing here is they're emphasizing an E-max Malphite build. There are some Malphites who do E-max. It is a build. It does happen. They are real. Not every Malphite maxes Q and then spams Arcane Comment. Most Malphites do. Every Malphite should. It's really stupid, but not every Malphite does. There are still some people stupidly trying Grasp the Undying plus E-max, which maybe is more viable now that it has less mana cost at rank 5 and now that it has more damage at rank 5. Maybe it is more viable. Maokai is getting the healing percent on his passive restored. The flat amount that it heals is still down, so as compared to before, he is still healing less than he used to, but at least the health healing, the percent health healing is going back. So instead of 4 to 10% health healing, he's going to 4 to 12% health healing, 2% more health at level 16, which is good. It's not like a giga buff, but yeah, it's okay. So then his Q Bramble Smash is seeing its base damage go up, presumably, so you don't always need to rush Sunfire, but we'll see. The base damage is going up, 5 damage at rank 1 and 25 damage at rank 5. So he's getting more damage on his Q, especially in the early game, and he's getting more healing on his passive into the late game. So hopefully Maokai will actually be viable, but probably not. More Dekaiser. Not less Dekaiser, more Dekaiser. He is getting his damage to minions, his damage to monsters on his passive is being nerfed into the ground. I'm not even gonna go over the numbers. It's like a tenth as much as it used to be. Not a tenth, it's like a fifth as much as it used to be. It got obliterated. Now his passive proc on monsters only procs on the large monster hits as well. So he cannot proc his passive instantly by just hitting the large monster camp. This does nerf top Mordekaiser still because he will be able to clear the camps after pushing top lane. He can't steal the camps as easy. And this effectively obliterates Jungle Mordekaiser out of existence. Which is a bit weird because they directly buffed Mordekaiser to jungle. So they were like, hey man, come jungle on Mord. And then some people were like, okay. And now Riot's saying nobody can jungle on Mord. Nobody is allowed to jungle on Mord. Which feels odd to me. Shyvana is getting her empowered basic attacks versus marked enemies down from 3.5 to 3% max health damage. So her damage against the jungle and her damage against other champions is being nerfed substantially. She will no longer be able to clear the jungle as fast, and she will no longer be able to clear other tank champions as fast. Also, even against squishy champions, a nerf is a nerf on damage. Sion is getting a pretty big buff here. I don't think it'll be enough, but it is a pretty big buff. His base mana is going up from 330 to 400, so 70 more mana, and he gets an additional 10 more mana per level. So the amount of mana this champion will have will go up a good amount. In addition to that, the base damage on his Q is going up by 10. As a reminder, 10 damage is 10 if you tap it, 20 if you get the mini stun, and 30 if you get the maxi stun. So it's a good bit of damage on his Q in the early game. and a good bit of mana so that he can use maybe like one more rotation throughout a fight before he goes out of mana. Syndra, who's been overpowered for a while, but you know, it took people a bit of time to get used to her. Syndra is getting a nerf to her damage. Her Force of Will upgrade, when she gets the Transcendent upgrade on her W, that's when she picks up something and throws it at you. The amount of true damage she does is being nerfed until the late game. Her Scatter the Weak, that's when she scatters everything and stuns everyone, that is having its cooldown increased from 15 to 17. 17-second cooldown means that is a very, 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 very long time before she can use a Scatter the Weak again, meaning that she's quite weak, quite targetable, quite killable. Additionally, the magic damage on Scatter the Weak is going down. I should say the AP ratio is going down. Instead of 0.55, it will be 0.45. So in the early game, less true damage. In the late game, less all damage. In addition, less cooldown. Will this balance her? Probably. She's not like super giga overpowered. She's not like broken. She is overpowered though. And these are all nerfs, so it'll probably balance her. Fixed a bug where upgrading Q could reset its cooldown. That's interesting. I don't know how abusable that was. Tahm Kench is getting a large list of buffs. Basically, they're buffing Take Tahm Kench and they're buffing AP Tahm Kench, and they're trying to make AP Tahm Kench synergize with Tank Tahm Kench so he can build Demonic Embrace. Because if there's one thing this game needed, it was more funny tanks going Demonic Embrace and one-shotting people. I just couldn't get enough of that. It was just so enjoyable. So the amount of damage his passive does now scales on AP. No, scales. The AP scales on health. There we go. For every 100 bonus health, his passive now has a 2% AP ratio. So if you have 1,000 health, his passive has a 10% AP ratio. The more health you build, the higher an AP ratio on his passive you get. Why? I do not know. His Q is having its damage increased for the AP, so instead of 90% AP, it's now 100% AP. The self-heal is also going up a good amount. Instead of 3 to 5% missing health is healing, it's now 5 to 7% missing health is healing. So the amount of healing his Q does is going up a good chunk. His W is having its AP ratio buffed as well, from 125% AP to 150% AP. So if you get hit by a QW on Demonic Embrace Tahm Kench, he will likely just kill you from full with no counterplay. It's funny because Demonic Embrace tank one-shot. Everyone laugh. It's hilarious. His E Thick Skin is getting buffed as well. The amount of damage you store as gray health is when you don't have allies nearby is going from 13% to 15%. Then at max rank, it's going from 45% to 47%. So early in the game, solo lane Tahm Kench will get not a lot, but like a little amount more gray health. And then later in the game, he also gets a little bit more as well. When you're near an ally, you're getting a slight bit more at rank 1. So you're going from 40% to 42% of damage is gray health. But at rank 5, you're 50% and then 50%. So solo Tahm Kench is getting buffed no matter what rank in E you are. Duo Tahm Kench is only getting buffed at rank 1. So solo lane Tahm Kench will be a bit tankier, not a lot, but a little bit tankier, and heal a little bit more. All the other buffs are to his AP ratios. His ultimate AP ratio is also being buffed. Instead of 5% ratio to the instead of a 5% ratio to the health damage, it will now be a 7% ratio to the health damage. So at 100 AP, it'll do 7% more health damage. Then they're doing this weird change, which kind of seems like a big nerf to me, where instead of the shield lasting 2.5 seconds, when you eat an ally and spit them out and they get the shield, instead of it lasting 2.5 seconds and breaking, it now decays by 50 health every second. So that's 200 health a second. So that is definitely a buff, maybe, probably. I'm not really sure why they're doing this. I guess if you build like an absolute ass load of AP on Tahm Kench, the idea is then he'll get a huge mega shield and then it won't decay until like 5 or 6 seconds instead of 2.5. I'm not sure I really understand the reasoning, but I'll see in game. It's probably a buff. It's probably a buff. I can't say 100% though. Trundle is getting nerfed rather substantially. The base attack speed ratio is going from 0.67 to 0.6. So Trundle will go from a high attack speed to actually having a low attack speed baseline. Now remember, all attack speed modifiers multiply your base attack speed, so his W and any attack speed items will give him less attack speed because his base attack speed is lower. In addition, the amount of damage his ult does is going from 20 to 35 to 20 to 30, so he will do less damage in the late game with his ultimate. Yuumi is basically being annihilated. Yeah, she's basically receiving a very, very, very big nerf. The cooldown on her passive is going from 14 to 6 to 18 to 6. So 4 more second cooldown on her passive early game. Late game it'll be the same, but early game that is a very substantial nerf on how many shields she can generate. In addition, her ultimate is having its root duration down from 1.75 to 1.25. So from a decently long duration root to a shorter duration root. Between these two changes, that will probably obliterate this champion. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say than that. Zac is getting a pretty large buff as well. Zac is going to be the Zac attack again. His passive is going from 4 to 6.25 to 4 to 7. So at max rank, his ult will, his passive, that's when he eats his globules, his bloblets, his blobbles. When he eats his little globbles, he'll, at max rank, heal 0.75% of his health more. Early game and mid game, it's going to be about the same, but late game, it's a small buff. It's a little buff to his healing. In addition, his Q Searching Strikes, that's when he stuns you and knocks you against something. That cooldown is going down by 1 second. So from 15 to 9 to 14 to 8. At rank 1, not really that big a deal because he'll never get to use it twice in a fight anyway. Late game though, at going from 9 to 8, that means that with some ability haste and stuff, he could probably get 2 off in a reasonable amount of time. So that definitely does help out his late game. The damage on his Q is also going up from 2.5% of his health as damage to 4% of his health as damage. Now remember, that's his health as damage. So 2.5 of Zac's health to 4% of Zac's health. Against squishy champions, that will be a pretty good nuke. I think a lot of AD carry players and other squishy players really enjoy when Zac one-shots them in a stun, so this is definitely going to be something that, in my opinion, will be very beloved by the community. Because we all love getting one-shot by Zac. Okay, Zeri is probably going to take way too long to go over. I did read through it. The general, okay, I'm not going to actually go through it because I'm gonna be blunt with you fellas. I would have to spend 10 minutes on this, and I don't think any of you are really that interested. You think you are, but you're not. So the general idea is her scaling is going up, her damage is going way up, but her range and her Q is going down. The damage type on her W, that's when she goes zap and it goes through a wall and goes pew, 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 pew. That damage is being changed from magic to physical. So if you build a lot of armor, it will do way less damage. So her stats are being buffed, her base move speed is being buffed, but the she gets a little bit less movement speed on her when she hits a shield, she gets a little bit less movement speed than she did. Her W again is being changed to physical, and it's now on her ultimate. Her ultimate now gives her 10% movement speed for 5 seconds, but the stacking movement speed only lasts for 1.5 seconds. So if she hits you every 5 seconds, she gets a 10% movement speed modifier, but the stacking movement speed only lasts for 1.5. So if you get away from her, then she can actually lose that stacking amount really, really fast. No longer does she need to hit you once every 5 seconds to keep up the full like 50% movement speed modifier. Now she needs to hit you every 1.5 seconds, meaning she only has enough room to miss a single Q before it falls off. If she misses 2, it falls off. So that should hopefully balance her permakiting on every champion in the game. You know, the reduced range on her Q, in addition to the reduced time for her movement speed on her ultimate, that should hopefully make it so that she can't be permanently kiting you while also chasing you at the same time because she's moving twice as fast as you. Hopefully. I can't say for sure, but hopefully, yes. As for the jungle, jungle's going to generate a little bit less gold and do a little bit less damage to the jungle, and their 20% bonus damage no longer applies to the dragon and baron and rift herald and epic dragon and all that stuff. There's a little bit more XP in the jungle in the late game to compensate for that, But they're basically doing some leash changes on stuff. This is all kind of miscellaneous work right here. Objective planning is receiving a rework. Do you guys care about that? Probably not. You'll see it in game. ARAM clash. They're doing a clash on ARAM. Mythic content. I don't care. Competitive. Okay, you can now swap your pick order in champion select. That is true. You can now swap your pick order. Not swap directly champions anymore, although I assume you can still swap champions, but now you can also swap pick order. So first pick can be swapped to fifth pick if fifth pick wants to pick first, which is obviously good. I think everybody wants that. And that the fact that this isn't mentioned right up at the top, but it's just kind of hidden in between these two changes here in competitive, right? I think they should be like front and center up there. They should be like right at the top, like pick order swapping. Brr, 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 brr. Champion select anonymity is being changed as well. Instead of ally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you will now be named Gromp, Merkwolf, Raptor, Krug, and Scuttlecrab. Anyone who is named Gromp, I will kill. Anyone who is named Krug, I will kill. Raptors, Merkwolves, you are fine. Scuttlers, you're on short notice. Behavioral system is blah blah blah. There's some bug fixes. I don't think any of these are major at this point. There's one, you know how every patch there's always that one bug fix where I say, man, I knew this was bugged like 5 years ago when this happened to me. I knew this was bugged, and all of you are like, no, you're being salty. Well, in the continuing list of yes, it was actually bugged and you guys are dumb. Fixed a bug where Nar's Q would veer off in an unexpected direction if a movement command was issued right when the boomerang was about to return. So yes, Nar's boomerang would sometimes just randomly veer off in a direction you could not possibly have picked up. I think that's it. Sion can now proc Radiant Virtue if he's in his passive, which is neat, I guess. I don't think any of these, I read through them, I don't think any of these are really that big a deal. No. So then we're on new skins. We have, oops, who is this? Wait, I think it said Syndra, but this is Janna? No. This is Janna, no? It's like Janna. Is that not Janna? Oh, it's got like the things. Is that Diana? Okay, my final guess is... Ooh, I don't know if I want to even guess. There's no way to tell anymore. It was Diana. Winter Blessed Diana. Ooh, okay, okay. Tough crowd, okay. Winter Blessed Shaco. I don't know. I feel like they need to do something different with Shaco. They just, it's just not appealing. Like when I think Shaco, I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. Winter Blessed Swain. Is he supposed to be like Old Man Winter here? How does Swain keep getting younger? I know he's clearly going for like a 40 look, but the dude's like 60, is he not? Even going from 60 to 40 is like regressing him 20 years. I know they're going for like an Old Man Winter look. I'm kind of jealous of his hair though, not gonna lie. Winter Blessed Warwick. Okay, I know what they're going for, and I'm not sure they've hit the mark. I'd have to see in game. Winter Blessed Cillian. This does nothing for me. This does nothing for me. Winter Blessed Zoe. They really like the idea of Zoe using portals, huh? Like all her art, I swear it's always like portal, portal. Is her thing that she's like saving the sheep from the wolves using portals? Why would Zoe do that? Why would she say, why is her head so big? Why is her head ginormous? Half her body is her head. Ashen Grave Knight Mordekaiser. It does look cool, but does it look cooler than his other skins? I'd have to tell. Prestige Winter Blessed Warwick. How is that different? Because he's wearing a suit? Okay, let's look in game. Winter Blessed Diana. Swear to God, you could tell me this was Fiora. If you told me this is the new Fiora skin, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'd be like, yeah, no, I mean, that's a pretty good Fiora skin. I like what they're doing with her look. It's like emo Fiora. Okay, that's cool. But now it's Diana? Okay. That is definitely Shaco. That is Shaco. I don't know what they're doing with it. Swain? Yeah, I know what they're going for. Like, I know. It does look good, though. It does look good. It does look good. I'm not going to knock it. Winter Blessed Warwick. It looks like Warwick with a keg on his back. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when they gave Urgot that, like, steampunk Urgot skin, but then he had, like, a stove on his shoulder, and it looks so dumb that no one ever wanted to use it again. That's what this reminds me of. You put a keg on his back, my dude. It doesn't look cool. It looks really stupid. It's not thematic. It's stupid. Yeah, it's definitely Zillion. Yep, that is definitely Zillion. I don't think anyone will be able to mistake that. That's Zoe. It's just kind of Zoe in an outfit. How come in-game she looks normal? I mean, her head's a little big, I'll admit. Like, her head's pretty big, right? But, like, in-game she looks normal, and then in her art, she's, like, 50% head. Do you see that? That's way too much head. I mean, it looks like Zoe in an outfit. Honestly, compared to these ones, like, compared to Zillion, I feel like it actually looks better than Zillion. Is that just me? Because, like, the Zillion skin, I don't know what they're going for. At least the Zoe skin kind of looks like... It doesn't even look like Winter Zoe. It just literally looks like Zoe wearing an outfit. Now, I know what you're about to say here, right? Zoe wearing an outfit? Grrr. That is bad. I don't like it when my league characters just look like they're wearing an outfit. But, like, if you look at... Hold on, I'm going to bring up Syndra here. If you look back to... Do they not have it here? There we go. If we look back to the Syndra skin, it literally just looked like college girl Syndra. She's literally just wearing like a college girl outfit there, right? And that's kind of like how I look at this Zoe skin. It literally looks like she's just wearing like a high school outfit. Like she's just like trying to be fashionable, you know? God, I hate her face. I hate her face so much. And then we got Mordekaiser. Yeah, that looks cool. That one looks really cool. I mean, they both look cool. They both look cool. I like them both. Except there's one missing. Prestige Winter Blessed Warwick is not here. Huh. That's frustrating. Well, that's it for the patch, everybody. Thank you for coming. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Special thank you to all my Patreon members. You guys are brilliant. I'm not going to read the names today. I'm sorry. I have a huge headache. I have other stuff to do today as well. But thank you anyone that subscribes to my Patreon. You're wonderful. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys mean the world to me and help me continue to do this. Special thanks to my YouTube members. You guys are always here. You guys are always brilliant. Love you guys. Thank you to anyone who just watches and leaves a comment. Thank you for that. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody.